A lost continent has just been found under Europe. Apparently in 2020, scientists are making huge discoveries every day. You heard me right, a lost 8th continent right here named Great Adria has been found under Europe. A recent study just showed that this 8th continent slid under what is now southern Europe about 120 million years ago, and it is still hidden deep within the earth. Scientists have just made a 3,000-year-old mummy speak. Scientists at the University of New York have successfully replicated the vocal tract of a 3,000-year-old mummy. And the reason they did this is because they wanted to see if they could recreate a voice from the past. They took precise measurements of the mummy's vocal tract and 3D printed it, and were actually able to make this 3,000-year-old mummy speak. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I don't think 2020 is the year for making anything come back from the dead. The internet is freaking out over this animal that was spotted in the Philippines. If you thought 2020 couldn't get more terrifying, wait until you see this. This is a rare endangered species of megabat found in the Philippines. And it is the size of humans. I'm not joking with you. Look at it next to this guy. These are the largest species of bats in the world. They are usually found in forest caves, but recently people have been seeing them out and about like this. I bet you didn't know that there was a lost 8th continent. I swear every day in 2020 some big discoveries made. Say hello to Zealandia. The reason you've probably never heard about this or seen it is because almost 95% of its landmass is submerged thousands of feet in the Pacific Ocean. So this little green area right here is New Zealand, but this huge red outline is Zealandia. This image right here really shows how much bigger Zealandia would be. Volcanism and tectonic motion is what made Zealandia become underwater. A black hole just collided with something that shouldn't exist. I swear, every 5 minutes in 2020, something insane happens. Astronomers are puzzling over observations that show a black hole smashing into a mystery object of unusual size. Some scientists are saying that the unusual object was another black hole, or that it could be a neutron star. But most scientists don't agree with this. They don't think the mysterious object was a black hole, because if it was, it would be the smallest black hole ever by a long shot. And they say it can't be a neutron star because it's absolutely way too big. Either way, this is something astronomers have never ever seen before. And in fact, it can be something entirely new that we have no idea what it is. Scientists are always making extremely crazy discoveries every day. I just want to share with you some of the craziest discoveries they've made in just the past 5 days. Pluto may have started hot and contained an ocean. You heard me right. Scientists have just discovered some evidence that shows Pluto used to have an ocean. And the craziest part is the ocean would have been under its crust like this. It would have the ice covering with the ocean under it. Scientists have also discovered that there are a lot of rogue black holes just zooming around our universe as we speak. And this is scary because we can't see black holes. And scientists have even discovered that planets with large oceans are very common in the Milky Way galaxy. And astronomers estimate that there are about 6 billion Earth-like planets in the Milky Way galaxy alone. Also, new observations suggest that the universe might be expanding at a higher rate than we originally thought. And NASA has also proposed a new mission that would see them visiting one of Neptune's moons called Triton, and they expect to find life there. If you were scared of the ocean already, just wait until you hear about this. 2020 really just keeps getting crazier by the day. So scientists have just discovered giant underground oceans hidden in our planet. And it could be home to some bizarre, alien-like life forms. You heard me right. Over 500 miles under our Earth's crust, scientists have discovered huge oceans. And we have absolutely no idea what could be living there. And these oceans are so massive, these underground oceans hold 3 times more water than there is on the surface of the Earth. The temperature of the water down that deep in the Earth is so high, scientists have no idea what could be lurking down there in the depths of our planet. Here are 3 crazy inventions that just never caught on. Number 1 is the dangling baby cages. This absolutely ridiculous invention was created in 1922. And the reason this was invented was because babies needed to be aired to renew and purify the blood. Next up, we have the car catcher. Basically, the way it worked is that the car would automatically detect if it was about to hit somebody or something. And it would eject this net so it wouldn't hurt or kill whatever it was about to hit. And the last one is the cigarette pack smoker. This thing would let you smoke an entire pack of cigarettes in one go. That is so disgusting and so bad for you. Pretty cool. This guy has probably stolen money from you, but when you find out what he did with it, you'll be glad that he did. His name is Hamza Bundalaj, and he is one of the most ruthless hackers the world has ever seen. He was living in his mom's basement in New York when he decided to attempt something no man had ever done. He hacked into 217 banks and 60 million bank accounts. Just to put that into perspective, that's over 18% of the US population. Him and his friend got away with $4 billion in a matter of months. But you see, there's a reason why they're smiling, and you won't believe what they did with the money. They donated over 280 million to charities in Africa and Palestine. However, they were still sentenced to 15 years in prison. If this plane takes off, everyone in the US will probably all die. What you're looking at right now is the $200 million doomsday plane. Now, this plane will only take off in very specific situations, and what I mean by that is nuclear apocalypse type situations. So obviously if the plane takes off, it won't kill us, but if it does, it probably means that everyone in the US is already dead. So you're probably wondering what the point of this plane even taking off is if everyone is gonna die anyways. Well, let's just say it's the United States' only hope. Inside the plane contains massive control centers that could set off nukes anywhere in the US. Basically, they can control the entire country from this plane. It contains special technology that can prevent nuclear exposure, and it can fly for almost a week straight. So if there's ever an apocalypse in our lifetime, all the high-level government officials will hop on this plane and we will be left for dead. Never do this on an airplane. In September 2022, American actor Emerson Collins was on board a plane when suddenly he started hearing this. And it didn't stop there. The strange guttural noises carried on for the entire flight, and at one point, a flight attendant had to announce an apology.
Ladies and gentlemen, we realize there is an extremely irritating sound coming over the public announcement. The flight deck is trying to troubleshoot, trying to turn it off, so please be patient with us. We know this is a very odd...
It turns out somebody had hacked into the plane's PA system and was pranking everyone on board. The hacker was never caught, but I'm just glad that he or she didn't have any goals other than just to annoy the passengers and crew. Here are some places that you cannot visit even if you wanted to. Number 1, the Bohemian Grove in San Francisco, which is a restricted campground where the richest and most powerful men in the world meet. Members include prominent business leaders, government officials, and former US presidents, and no one knows exactly what goes on in these meetings. This is one of the only photos ever captured of the meetings, which shows the members doing some sort of ritual. Number 2, the Chapel of the Ark of the Covenant in Ethiopia, which contains the 2 stone tablets that God gave Moses containing the 10 Commandments. Only one priest is allowed to view the Ark, and if anyone else sees it, it is claimed that they will implode. Number 3, Snake Island, located off the coast of Brazil. This island contains the golden lancehead vipers that's venom will kill you in just a couple hours. There are over 4,000 snakes on this island, which equates to about 1 snake per square meter. With the release of Cocaine Bear in theaters, it got me thinking, did this actually happen? Well, the answer is yes and no. Let me explain. In the movie, a 500-pound black bear consumes a significant amount of cocaine and embarks on a drug-fueled rampage, killing tons of people. In real life, the story goes like this. In 1985, a former cop turned drug runner was flying a plane carrying $15 million worth of cocaine when his plane crashed. The crash left the cocaine scattered throughout the Chattahoochee National Forest. And that's when a 175-pound black bear found 77 pounds worth and ate it all. The bear went on a short drug-fueled rampage through the forest that lasted just a few seconds, as it then died of a severe drug overdose. And today the bear is a popular attraction at a mall in Lexington, Kentucky. What if I told you that the lost city of Atlantis, who was thought to be drowned in the sea, was actually in the driest place on Earth? So there's a location in the Western Sahara Desert of Mauritania called the Reshad structure, which just so happens to match what Plato had described as the lost ancient city of Atlantis. Plato had described Atlantis as made up of concentric circles, 3 of water and 2 of land, which matches the Reshad structure. It also is said to have an opening to the sea at the south, and if you look at it from satellite imagery, you can clearly see that water had run through it. And what people don't realize is that Sahara Africa up until 4,500 to 5,000 years ago was totally green. It was tropical. It had one of the largest networks of rivers ever known to exist. It was said to have mountains to the north, and you just so happen to have mountains called the Atlas Mountains mountain chain. But it goes further than that. It turns out that the Sahara Desert is one of the least studied places on Earth. Bullies called this kid a monkey, but what the internet did for him when they heard his story will restore your faith in humanity. This is 21-year-old Zanziman Ali, and for his whole life he has been bullied for the way he looks. You see, Ali has a condition called microcephaly, which causes his head to be way smaller than the rest of his body. People in his village bully him and call him a monkey because he eats grass, climbs trees, and lives an unusual lifestyle. He was beaten and abused by other kids and villagers because he was seen as an animal and not a human. And the more he was bullied, the more he feared people, which caused him to run away from home every day to hide in the jungle, which really worried his mom. But after Ellie's story went viral, a YouTuber named Aframax started a GoFundMe to help Ellie and his family, which ended up raising over $6,000. Aframax then gave all the money to Ellie's mom, which she used to buy a brand new home to give Ellie a better childhood.
Here are some insane North Korean laws you won't believe people actually have to live by. In North Korea, if your house catches on fire, you must save all the photos of the supreme leaders before you save yourself or your family. And if you survive but don't save the pictures, you will be executed. Next, it is mandatory to vote in North Korea, and if you don't, they will kill you. But the crazy part is there's only one person to vote for, and that's Kim Jong-un. Next, if you fall asleep in front of Kim Jong-un, you will be killed. For example, the North Korean defense minister was executed by an aircraft gun just for falling asleep in front of Kim Jong-un. This bear actually fought alongside Polish soldiers during World War II. In World War II, Polish soldiers found baby Wojtek by a train station in Iran, and sadly his mother had been shot by hunters. The Polish soldiers ended up adopting him when they were passing through the Middle East, and he ended up growing up with them. They formally enlisted him as a soldier, and he got his own rank and salary. They trained him to carry bombs and ammunition, and he even smoked, drank, and wrestled with the other soldiers. He fought alongside the soldiers and eventually became a soldier himself, and to him, the troop was his family. He helped massively in the fight against fascist Italy. And after years of fighting, Wojtek retired at a zoo in Edinburgh. And Wojtek is celebrated as a hero in Poland, with the name Wojtek meaning happy warrior. Welcome to ridiculous things going on around the world right now that for some reason you just haven't heard about, part 26. First up, an undersea gas pipeline in the Gulf of Mexico ruptured and created this insane underwater fire. The video looks like a scene from a movie, but it is completely unedited. It took about 5 hours to put out, and thankfully no one was hurt. Next, this mysterious dashcam footage has recently gone viral on Reddit and is causing controversy. It was taken on April 26th and shows a hairless creature about the size of a mountain lion running through the woods. It appears to have 6 to 8 legs, and everyone is arguing on what it could be or if it's even real at all. Next, 16 tons of illegal homemade fireworks recently exploded in Los Angeles. A bomb squad was trying to destroy the 32,000 pounds of fireworks when suddenly it exploded. When it exploded, it flipped cars, smashed windows, and injured 17 people. Here's why a prisoner that's proven innocent can't be released. Benjamin Spencer has been in prison for over 30 years for a crime he didn't commit. In 1987, he was convicted for the murder of Jeffrey Young, even though there was no physical evidence and he even had an alibi. But an eyewitness insisted that he did it, and he was given a life sentence. Years later, experts proved that there was no way the witness, who was almost 100 feet away, could have seen him from so far. A judge agreed and said that if the evidence had been presented, there would have been no way he would have been found guilty. But incredibly, since there's no new hard evidence like DNA or CCTV footage, he can't get a new trial. So now, an innocent man will be stuck in prison probably for the rest of his life unless a miracle happens. Here's the insane way El Chapo actually escaped prison for the second time. El Chapo is Mexico's most famous drug kingpin and is worth billions of dollars. He had already escaped from a Mexican high-security prison in 2001, so when he was arrested again in 2015, he was placed in Mexico's highest security prison and was watched on camera 24/7 in his cell. Once he was arrested, his cartel bought property 1 mile away from the prison. They built 2 houses on the property, but it was just a cover-up for the real construction, which was a tunnel from the house to the prison. With just pickaxes and shovels to minimize noise, his cartel dug through solid rock for 16 months until they reached his jail cell. The tunnel was equipped with lighting, ventilation, and even a motorcycle on rails. Finally, they reached the shower in his cell and El Chapo climbed down the hole. He then rode the motorcycle all the way to the other end to freedom. This woman set the most disgusting world record ever when she took the longest poo ever recorded, and you won't believe how long it was. Back in 1995, this lovely woman went to the University of Michigan and told them that she wanted to crap out the longest piece of poo ever recorded, and they agreed, so they put her on a high fiber diet. But they didn't trust that she could hold it all in, so they made her wear a butt plug. And after an entire week of not pooing, the University of Michigan had her poo at the bowling alley of a local high school. And the entire length of her poo ended up being 26 feet long, which was actually the entire length of her colon. There is a place in the US where murder is legal. It is literally called the Zone of Death. This all takes place in Yellowstone National Park. Here are the state lines, and you can see that the park crosses over into Montana and Idaho. And that is the problem. You see this little 50-mile strip of land in Idaho? That is where murder is legal, and here's why. In all criminal proceedings in the US, the jury has to live in both the state and the district in which a crime took place. In other words, if there is any crime that happens in this little strip of land, the jury in the trial has to be people that live in this little strip of land. The problem is that no one lives there, so the case would just get thrown out. Here is how things actually work. This is how your skin scabs over and heals over time. As you can see, your skin does a lot of work to protect you, so stop picking your scabs. Next, we have how ships are actually put into the ocean. As you can see, the ship is built on those ramps, and when it's complete, they just slide it off into the water and somehow it doesn't sink. Next, we have how dogs actually drink water. As you can see, they make these little bowls with their tongue and then just throw the water into their mouth. What would happen if the Queen murdered someone? So basically, anytime someone goes on trial in the UK, it's that person versus the Crown. In other words, it's the Queen versus you. Now, the only problem is the Queen can't actually prosecute herself. So yeah, the Queen can technically get away with murder, but it gets worse. Legally, no arrest can be made in the Queen's presence without her approving it. So if anyone ever tries to arrest her, she just has to say no. This school doesn't have any homework, tests, or any classes. At the Agora school in the Netherlands, life is super easy. For starters, everyone gets to customize their own desk, and these guys used a car. At Agora, students are allowed to use their phones and laptops whenever they want. A regular day at Agora goes something like this. First, students start brainstorming with their friends to find out what they should do that day. After that, it's project time, which can be in any of their major facilities, including woodshop. Then after lunch, there's this period called quiet time, where students are encouraged to meditate and sleep in these little pods. But I have to say, the absolute best part of this school is the students get to decide when they start and when they go home. 2021 has no chill. A group of South African shark hunters just accidentally rediscovered a population of fish that scientists thought to be extinct. The four-legged fossil fish known as the coelacanth predates dinosaurs. And the coelacanth is one of the only species to be rediscovered after going extinct. Would you want to be brought back to life centuries after you die? This may be possible thanks to organizations that cryogenically freeze people after death. This procedure costs anywhere from $30,000 to $200,000. They store bodies upside down in these tanks to protect their heads from damage. Hundreds of people and even some pets are currently frozen in these capsules. Welcome to ridiculous things going on around the world right now that for some reason you just haven't heard about. Part 23. A NASA satellite that is 14 billion miles from Earth has detected an intriguing constant hum sound. They say the faint hum is caused by constant vibrations near the satellite, and this is what they sound like. Next, freshly made plutonium from outer space was just found on the ocean floor. According to scientists, the extraterrestrial debris arrived to Earth within the last 10 million years. A Japanese oil company came across the plutonium a mile down in the Pacific Ocean by accident. And also on May 26, there will be a blood supermoon. China just landed their first rover on Mars today, and here's everything you need to know. China successfully landing their rover on Mars makes them the second country ever to do so, right after the United States. China says the rover's mission is to understand the distribution of ice on Mars. This information would help future human colonists sustain themselves on Mars.
If you weren't scared of the deep ocean already, just wait until you see this.
That was a giant squid that was just caught on camera hunting for the first time ever 2,500 feet deep in the ocean. That little light is a decoy acting as a jellyfish, which is what scientists use to lure the giant squid in to capture it on camera. Oh, and the giant squid in the video is 12 feet long, but is considered a baby.
You know, I do all my own stunts, obviously. I also do my own music.
So I recently came across this guy's account and it really worried me, and here's why it should worry you too. What this guy is doing is called a deep fake. Simply put, a deep fake is when someone else uses artificial intelligence to put someone else's face on theirs. And this gets really scary when you start to think of what this could be used for. This comment sums it up pretty well. This is scary. They can do this to anyone and be framed for something. For example, someone could put your face on theirs and make you say and do whatever they want, and for the most part, no one could tell the difference. Ridiculous science discovery of the day that you haven't heard about. Scientists just unveiled a machine that will refreeze the North Pole and fight climate change. The company Real Ice developed a prototype that drills into an ice cap and pulls water up to the surface. The water will then solidify in the chilling temperatures that reach lows of 58 degrees Fahrenheit. This would create a new layer of ice and thus help the ice caps from melting away forever.
Anyone who is fully vaccinated can participate in indoor and outdoor activities, large or small, without wearing a mask or physical distancing.
You heard right. Just hours ago, the CDC announced that fully vaccinated people don't have to wear a mask or social distance. She said this is because of the continuing downward trajectory of cases and the scientific data of the performance of our vaccines. The CDC also said that unvaccinated people remain at risk of illness and death, and should remain masked and practice social distancing. What do you guys think about all of this? Back in 1977, NASA launched their Voyager 1 spacecraft into deep space, and now in 2021, it just found something pretty creepy. Voyager 1 is the farthest spacecraft from Earth, as it literally left our solar system almost 10 years ago. Since its launch, it has traveled over 15 billion miles, and it just now detected a faint, persistent hum somewhere beyond our solar system. To put this into perspective, Voyager 1 is beyond our solar system's border, which scientists thought was empty and desolate, but apparently they were wrong. And what's even more crazy is that Voyager 1 has been hearing this noise for the past 1 billion miles of its journey. It really makes you wonder what could be out there in the vast nothingness of space that we just haven't discovered yet. Back on January 4th, Donald Trump gave the US intelligence agencies 6 months to reveal to the public everything they know about UFOs. So that means on June 1st, the Pentagon will produce its most complete report to date on UFOs. This report will include discussions of incidents and sightings that cannot be explained with present-level human technology. And this gets even crazier as the former director of national intelligence, John Ratcliffe, said this.
Frankly, there are a lot more sightings than have been made public.
So he has not only confirmed sightings of UFOs around the world, but he also confirmed we should expect to hear more about them by June 1st. This is all going to be very interesting, and I will be sure to keep you guys updated if there's any more news. Recently, scientists discovered that the Earth is wobbling, and apparently it's our fault. The main reason this happens is because the location of the North and South Poles actually move. Scientists have known this for some time, but in recent years the poles have begun to drift faster than they have in the past. And they concluded this is because of climate change caused by humans. Basically, climate change is heating up the planet, which causes the poles to melt faster. And this new influx of water from the ice melting actually changes the way the Earth moves in space. And this is what is causing the Earth to wobble. Now, no one should start panicking, as this wobble isn't world-ending or anything like that.
But we should start taking climate change more seriously before really bad things start to happen that we can't fix. This is my third video talking about the Chinese rocket that was falling uncontrolled back to Earth, and it will be my final one as we just got confirmation it finally made impact. At 10:30 p.m. EST on May 8th, many people captured videos of the rocket burning up in the atmosphere as it fell back towards Earth. It took a while for scientists to find the debris, but now we can confirm it crashed into the Indian Ocean just north of the Maldives. So thankfully it did land in the ocean and no one was hurt. Well, except for any unlucky fish that were at the wrong place at the wrong time. An asteroid traveling 37,000 miles per hour punched into Earth's orbit in 2018, and scientists just figured out where it came from. It created a fireball nearly as bright as the sun before breaking up and landing in southern Africa. After the rock was found, scientists began the task of tracing its origins and were very shocked with what they found out. They said the meteorite likely originated from the second largest asteroid in our solar system named Vesta. The meteorite that landed on Earth chipped off of Vesta after it impacted with another body around 22 million years ago. That means the meteorite was flying through space for 22 million years until it crash landed on our planet, which is crazy to think about. So I made a video about the Chinese rocket that is falling uncontrolled back to Earth, and the 5 million of you that saw it were wondering when exactly was it going to crash. Well, as it's been falling closer and closer to Earth's surface, scientists concluded that it will make impact on May 8th. And they say it will be the equivalent of a small plane crash scattered over 100 miles. But don't worry too much, as it has a 71% chance of landing in the oceans, as oceans make up most of the Earth's surface. But for now, I will keep you guys updated if there's any more news. Welcome to ridiculous things going on around the world right now that for some reason you just haven't heard about, part 21. Scientists recently discovered the closest known black hole to Earth, and it's closer than you might think. They named it the Unicorn, and it is only 1,500 light years from Earth, which by space standards is pretty close. It is one of the smallest black holes ever discovered, but it is still 3 times the mass of our sun. And apparently scientists say that it was essentially hiding in plain sight, which makes you wonder what else is hiding in plain sight that we haven't discovered yet. But before everyone starts to freak out thinking that this black hole is gonna eat the Earth, let me tell you why you should not worry. The Unicorn might be the closest black hole to Earth, but it is still far away enough where it is completely harmless to us. A solar storm that lit up the entire sky in 1582 could hit the Earth again this century, and here is why that is not good news. First off, solar storms occur when the sun shoots out boiling hot plasma in the form of solar winds. The solar storm of 1582 lasted 3 days and stretched over all of Europe and Asia. Something like this happening today would cause catastrophic events. It would cause worldwide blackouts, billions of dollars in damages, and lots of deaths. And a solar storm, as strong as the one in 1582, is said to happen every century, so we are way overdue for one.
On Wednesday, a submarine with 53 people on it went missing near Indonesia in deep waters. But after countless hours of searching, this submarine is yet to be found.
Just a couple hours ago, news broke that the submarine was actually found. But the submarine was found in 3 different parts. An underwater robot found the lost submarine lying at the bottom of the ocean over 2,700 feet deep. The cause of the submarine sinking remains uncertain, and sadly, all of the crew is considered dead. Welcome to ridiculous stuff going on around the world right now that for some reason you just haven't heard about. Part 17. Japan is planning to release 1.25 million tons of radioactive water from a nuclear plant into the ocean. The radioactive water is currently sitting in about 1,000 tanks, but storage space is now running out. The radioactive water is from the Fukushima nuclear disaster, which was caused by the 2011 Tohoku earthquake and tsunami, which was actually the most severe nuclear accident since the Chernobyl disaster in 1986. Japan said that discharging the contaminated water into the ocean was deemed the cheapest and fastest solution. They plan to start releasing the water into the Pacific Ocean in 2 years.
But don't freak out too much. Experts are saying that Japan is gonna dilute the water and it will have very little effect on the environment. But please let me know what you think about this in the comments. Welcome to ridiculous stuff going on around the world right now that for some reason you just haven't heard about. Part 20. A solar wind that is traveling over 1 million miles per hour is due to hit Earth today. And apparently the National Space Weather Prediction Center haven't really talked about it. But before everyone starts to say the world is about to end, just hold on a second. This chart shows the different strengths a geostorm can be, and the one hitting Earth today is a G1, which as you can see is all the way at the bottom. So a solar storm rated at G1 is considered the weakest. At most, it will cause power grid fluctuations, and it will slightly impact the satellites that orbit the Earth. But other than that, you should be just fine. Welcome to ridiculous things going on around the world right now that for some reason you just haven't heard about. Part 19. Last week, China launched a rocket for its space station which went really good and it made it successfully into orbit. But the launcher, which is the size of a 10-story building, also accidentally made it into orbit. And it is now falling back to Earth and no one knows where it's going to crash. It will crash sometime within the next 2 weeks, and nothing of this size has fallen to Earth in our lifetime, so this is major news. Now before everyone freaks out thinking the world is gonna end, just hold on a second. It will partially burn up in our atmosphere, and our oceans are very large, so the chances of it hitting you or a very large city is very low. Here are some of the worst gender reveal fails ever, part 2. This gender reveal went tragically wrong when a plane streaming the sign "It's a Girl" nosedived into the ocean. The expecting family was watching from a boat when the plane lost control while performing stunts, killing the 2 pilots. During this gender reveal, a father-to-be did a burnout with his car to reveal the gender of his baby, when suddenly the car burst into flames, but thankfully bystanders pulled them from the burning car unscathed. A family did their gender reveal party at a quarry with 80 pounds of tannerite, which is an explosive powder. When they detonated the explosion, it caused a small earthquake which rocked 2 states, causing lots of damage to nearby houses. The government has millions of dollars of unclaimed money and some of it is probably owed to you, so I'm going to show you how to claim your cut. First, go to unclaimed.org, scroll down and select your state. I'm just going to use Texas as an example. Search using your last name and it'll show you how much money you have unclaimed from the government. Your cut could range from a few dollars to thousands of dollars. Once you find how much you're owed, just follow the steps to receive your money. Most expensive mistakes in history. Apple was founded by 3 people, Steve Jobs, Steve Wozniak, and Ron Wayne. But most people haven't heard of Ron Wayne because back in 1976, he sold his 10% ownership of Apple for only $800. If he had decided to wait until 2022, his 10% would be worth around $300 billion. In 2000, Reed Hastings, the co-founder of Netflix, met with the top executives of Blockbuster. He wanted to either partner up with Blockbuster or sell them all of Netflix for $50 million. Blockbuster laughed at Hastings' 2 offers. 10 years later, Blockbuster went bankrupt and now Netflix is worth $158 billion. Crazy coincidences you won't believe actually happened, part 5. In 2018 in Camptown, Pennsylvania, a body was found wrapped in a black tarp inside a creek by the police. During the police investigation, some reporters were on the scene talking about what had happened. That's when one journalist came across Matthew Haverly, who lived with his mom right next to the creek where the body was found. While being interviewed, he said this.
It's sad to say that that's someone's either daughter, mother, whatever, both.
Remember that quote because hours later cops realized that the body in the creek was Matthew's mom. This makes his comments about the body being someone's mother very suspicious. Cops raided his property and found the same black tarp that his mom was wrapped in his shed. And he was arrested and sentenced to 3.5 to 14 years in prison for the murder. Creepiest things caught on Google Maps. In this TikTok, serial killer Juan Carlos Hernandez was caught transporting dead bodies. Between 2012 and 2018, Jose and his wife Patricia sexually assaulted, dismembered, and ate up to 20 young women. They would then feed the hearts of their victims to their dogs and dump the body bags in this roadside location that can be seen on Google Maps. They even sold the baby of one of their victims into human trafficking. Thankfully, they were both arrested and each sentenced to 327 years in prison. Genius people who beat the system, part 11. Lucky wanted to diss her bad teachers, so in her senior quote she put, "To all the teachers that never taught me a thing," and put a timestamp from Stranger Things that says this.
Son of a bitch, you're really no help at all. You know that?
A guy was playing video games when his girlfriend asked him to watch the cake that she was baking as she didn't want it to burn. But he didn't want to just sit there and watch the cake, so he FaceTimed the cake so he could continue playing video games upstairs. Nikola Lulik was a third-class passenger aboard the Titanic. But when disaster struck, third-class passengers were a low priority, so Nikola found a sailor's cap and used it as a disguise to secure a spot on a lifeboat. And he went on to live another 50 years. Lost inventions that could have changed the world, Part 4. In the late 1990s, inventor Jan Sloot created the Sloot digital coding system. He claimed it could compress an entire multi-gigabyte movie down to a file size of 8 kilobytes. This would have revolutionized the way we store and share data. Slout demonstrated this to executives from Philips by playing 16 movies simultaneously from a single 64 kilobyte chip. And the Philips execs told Slout that he was about to be, quote, the richest man on earth. However, 2 days before the source code was going to be handed over, Slout mysteriously died in his garden of a heart attack on September 11th, 1999, and his decoding software was never recovered. People who got caught in 4K Part 2. This movie theater was caught using Amazon Prime Video to play movies, but the funniest part is that it gave them an error message saying too many videos were playing at once on their account. A customer sent a small business this email saying that she ordered the shooting star ring but instead only got an empty box. But the photo she attached to the email showing the empty packaging shows her wearing this ring, which is literally the ring that she bought. Someone recorded an Amazon truck early in the morning and captured the delivery driver delivering more than just packages. Let's just hope that nothing got on the packages, if you know what I mean. Genius inventions that should exist everywhere, Part 12. The Defender is the all-in-one self-defense tool. If you're ever attacked, just take a picture. The picture as well as your location is instantly sent to the authorities. Also, after taking the picture, it sprays pepper spray and sets off its mighty speaker which attracts attention, and it's small enough to always have on you. The meld knob and clip helps you cook the perfect meal every time by automatically turning the heat up or down to keep the food at the perfect temperature. Also, the Meld app has hundreds of recipes, and when you select one, the app connects to the knob and clip and cooks the meal for you. The quad ski is the world's first quad and jet ski in one. It's capable of going 45 miles per hour on both land and water and could potentially save lives. Since it converts from quad to jet ski in only 4 seconds, lifeguards could use it to quickly rescue someone who could have drowned or been pulled to sea. Genius people who beat the system, Part 10. This TikToker was at her kid's baseball game where there were rules that wouldn't allow parents to have alcohol. So she got these sleeves you easily just slip onto cans that hides what the actual drink is. That's thinking outside the box. You're not allowed to write anything negative in your senior quotes. So Amber wrote The Office, Season 7, Episode 19, Minute 445. And if you go to that moment in the show, it says this.
Should have burned this place down when I had a chance.
A couple were at the arcade and really wanted to win the arcade jackpot by landing on the 1,000 tickets reward. But they didn't want to waste a ton of money trying to do it legitimately, so instead they just lifted the glass and made it land on the jackpot. Crazy coincidences you won't believe actually happened, Part 4. Just days before their wedding, Alex and Donna were looking through Donna's baby photos. In this picture of Donna taken in Disneyland, Alex noticed himself in a cart being pushed by his father 20 years before he and Donna met. These two drunk guys were imitating Conor McGregor on the sidewalk in Dublin, Ireland, when suddenly Conor McGregor drives past them, opens his window, and talks to them. This 10,000-year-old skeleton was found in a cave in Cheddar, England, and its DNA was tested. It was discovered that a living relative was teaching history about a half-mile away, tracing back nearly 300 generations. Here are some of the worst gender reveal fails ever. These parents were trying to make their daughter pop the balloon that would reveal what their new baby's gender was. But the little girl didn't want to pop it and threw the dart. This led to the mom hitting her and letting go of the balloon, which floated away. This family was having a powder gender reveal. The plan was that everyone would pop the tubes at the same time. But this kid dropped his on the floor before they all did the big reveal, which made it break and revealed it was a boy, which ruined the surprise. For this gender reveal, they shot a target and it exploded, showing it was a boy, but the explosion caused a wildfire to start. The wildfire ended up burning 47,000 acres owned by the state of Arizona, and the father is being forced to pay $8.2 million in restitution. People who got caught in 4K. This girl had her feet on her boyfriend when suddenly the guy in the middle tried taking a picture of her feet, but the flash went off. If you look at the guy's reaction when he gets caught, it looks like his soul left his body. This TikToker was sunbathing by the pool when this older man was just blatantly staring at her. As he was unknowingly being recorded, he puts his hand down and seems to do something very gross, but thankfully he was kicked out.
This guy sent this selfie to his girlfriend and said he was hanging out with his coworker Patrick. But his girlfriend said that Patrick looks a lot like a girl because if you zoom into his glasses, you can see that Patrick has long blonde hair. Genius inventions that should exist everywhere, part 11. Apparently we are living in the future as now there are projection keyboards. Just connect the device to your phone and you can type using a hologram, and as an added bonus, you don't have to worry about spills anymore. Don't you just hate when you're laying on your towel and sand gets on it? If that's you, then you might need this. This beach mat absorbs sand. When sand gets on it, it travels through it and goes out the other side, and thankfully it can't come in through the bottom. Honestly, I'm very confused on why all stores and malls don't have this. It's an escalator just for your cart. All you have to do is push your cart through the little doors and it will go up or down at the same speed that the escalator for people does. Times when psychics helped solve crimes. On May 15, 1976, 14-year-old Susan Jacobson left her home to go to a job interview at an ice cream parlor, but she never came back. Susan's parents contacted the police, but the police said she probably just ran away with her boyfriend Dempsey Hawkins and they refused to search for her. 2 weeks later, Susan's parents contacted a psychic, Dorothy Allison, to help with the case. Dorothy asked what the word Mar meant, claiming she saw it in red spray paint. She also envisioned an abandoned car, dual church steeples, the smell of oil, and claimed that Susan had been strangled to death by her boyfriend. Then 2 years later, 3 boys stumbled across Susan's body as they were hunting. At the site was the word Mar spray painted in red on a rock, dual church steeples, an abandoned car, and 2 oil drums which contained Susan's body. Plus, evidence at the scene showed that Susan had been strangled by her boyfriend Dempsey Hawkins, who was then sentenced to 22 years to life in prison. Terrible crimes that were solved by pure coincidence. On April 28, 1997, Zephany Nurse was born, and she was placed in a nearby crib while her mother Celeste slept, but when Celeste awoke, her daughter was missing. Police searched the hospital, but nothing of note was found. In fact, no progress was made in the case for nearly 2 decades. However, when Celeste's next oldest daughter Cassidy started classes at a new school in 2014, she met Michelle Solomon. The girls quickly struck up a close friendship and many people commented on the resemblance to one another. So much so that when Cassidy introduced Michelle to her mom Celeste, she instantly contacted the police. When Michelle's alleged parents couldn't provide proof of her birth, a DNA test was conducted and it was confirmed that Michelle was actually Zephany Nurse, Celeste's missing daughter. The kidnapper LaVonna Solomon was later convicted in the abduction case and sentenced to 10 years in prison. Weird everyday items that are banned in prison. Chewing gum is banned because prisoners can use it to make impressions of keys and to jam door locks so their cell doors don't close all the way. Spiral-bound notebooks are banned because not only can prisoners make weapons out of the metal rings, but they could also use them to pick a lock. Some prisons in the UK have banned prisoners from watching R-rated movies. They don't want them watching violent movies or films that depict how babies are made. Bizarre mysteries and crimes that were solved by using Google Earth, Part 2. In 2006, a small plane carrying 2 passengers went missing over the skies of Arizona. But the 2 passengers didn't follow a flight plan, so no one knew what their route was, which made finding the crash site very difficult. But 3 years later, some cyber sleuths used Google Earth to find out the direction the plane was headed and eventually found the location of the lost plane crash. When David and his family weren't home, thieves stole their new camping trailer which was sitting in their driveway. There were no suspects in the case until a year later when David's 11-year-old son looked up their house on Google Earth. It had captured the criminal on their driveway moments before the crime took place. The police would use this photo to find and arrest the suspect. Genius inventions that should exist everywhere, Part 10. If you ever get a bug bite, all you have to do is put this little suction device over it and pop it out. This will remove the insect venom and saliva and stop it from itching. Next, if you've ever wanted to professionally clean your ears, then you need this device. It has a built-in HD camera that lets you see all the earwax on your phone so you don't miss a spot. Next, you can get infinite free water with the Fontis self-filling water bottle that uses solar energy to pull the moisture contained in the air. By doing this, it can produce 17 ounces of drinking water an hour all by itself. Here are some Google secrets that you didn't know about. If you type in Google space and click the first result, all of Google will start floating in space and you can type and mess with all the buttons by throwing them around. If you type in Pac-Man, you can play a Google version of Pac-Man along with other games such as Tic-Tac-Toe, Fun Facts, Minesweeper, Snake, Solitaire, and much more for free. If you type in Thanos and click the Infinity Gauntlet, you will not only make some of the search results disappear, but half of Google will also be snapped out of existence. And if you click it again, everything will be reversed. This man escaped prison 2 times by simply walking out the front doors without anyone noticing. Stephen Russell was serving 6 months in prison for fraud when he decided he wanted out. So while in jail, he stole street clothes that had been discarded and confiscated a walkie-talkie. When the guards were preoccupied, he put on the civilian clothing, grabbed the walkie-talkie, and acted like an undercover cop. He made his way to the exit and walked right out, but a few months later he was arrested for fraud once again. This time he was sentenced to 45 years, but again decided he wasn't going to wait that long. So he discreetly started to collect green markers from around the prison and used them to dye his uniform. His prison uniform now looked just like the scrubs that the medical staff at the prison would wear. So he used this disguise to make his way to the exit and once again walked right out the front gate to freedom. Genius inventions that should exist everywhere, part 9. If you hate having to do the dishes, then this product is perfect for you. Just put it in the sink along with some soap and water, and in just a few seconds the dishes are spotless. And as a bonus, you can even do your laundry with it. We all know that you have to either take every grocery bag in on one trip or die trying. Well, with this device you can now easily bring in all the groceries in one trip using only one hand. Don't you just hate having to walk to your gate at the airport? Well, now you can sit and ride your luggage there. It's 3 times faster than walking, has good storage space, can charge your devices, and has GPS tracking so you never lose it. Weird life hacks that actually work. Getting the snow off your car can be a real pain, and just using a brush or a broom can scratch or dent your car. Well, all you have to do is use a leaf blower to quickly, easily, and safely remove all the snow from on top of your car. Have you ever had a balloon float away from you and then get stuck on the roof? Well, all you have to do is spray the balloon with some water and it will come right down. Don't you just hate when you pour soda into a cup and then the bubbles cause it to overflow and spill everywhere? Well, all you have to do is put a cup upside down on the soda and then flip it to not have it overflow with bubbles. This man escaped from 3 high-security prisons. Here's how he did it. In 1953, Alfred George Hines was serving 12 years in prison when he created his own key out of a bucket and used it to unlock his prison cell door. Weirdly enough, the other doors in the prison had the same locks fitted, so he used his key to open all of those too and got away in a car provided by a friend. After 8 months of freedom, he was recaptured, and during his new trial, he requested to use the bathroom. He was allowed to do so but had to be escorted by 2 officers, but he overpowered the guards and locked them together with a padlock he had smuggled in. Just 5 hours later, he was captured again as he was attempting to board a flight at the airport. He was then sent to Chelmsford, which was the only prison no one had ever been able to escape at the time. He somehow snuck his way to the prison walls, put 2 wheelbarrows on top of each other, climbed on top of them, and jumped over the prison walls to freedom once again. Dumbest/worst prison escape attempts ever. Kenneth Burnham was doing a few years in prison for burglary when he decided he had enough. As another inmate was about to be released on bond awaiting trial, Burnham took advantage of the light security and decided he would take that man's identity. He presented himself when the officers came to collect the lucky inmate, signed all the paperwork, and was just minutes away from freedom. There was just one problem. The inmate set for release, Glenn Taylor, was black, and Burnham was definitely not black. Prison officials quickly discovered the issue and Burnham's sentence was expanded because of his failed attempt to escape. Here's why you wouldn't survive the zombie apocalypses in some of the most famous movies and games. The infection in World War Z is unbeatable since the zombies can sprint very fast and form walls, allowing them to climb on top of one another. Also, their only interest is in spreading the infection. Once they bite a victim, they move on trying to bite another victim, which gives you no time to escape. Next, the infection in The Last of Us is unbeatable since the zombies can evolve and even release spores that infects anyone that breathes it. Also, society collapsed, all buildings and structures have crumbled, and all important technology, including the internet, has ceased to exist. Next, the infection in State of Survival is unbeatable since there's over 20 types of infected and some can even summon other zombies. But if you think you can survive, then put your skills to the test in the mobile game State of Survival, where you can build post-apocalyptic shelters and take on the undead with your friends. So if you're up for it, click the link in my bio. Crazy coincidences you won't believe actually happened, part 3. On July 28, 1900, King Umberto I of Italy visited a small restaurant in the town of Monza. As the owner greeted him, the king realized they looked identical and also shared the same name, but they soon discovered many more coincidences. They were both born on March 14, 1844 in the town of Turin, both married a woman named Margherita on April 22, 1868, and both had sons named Vittorio. They both served in the military and were promoted to different ranks on the same day, and the owner opened his restaurant on the same day that King Umberto was crowned. But it gets weirder. The day after the pair met, on July 29, 1900, the owner was killed in an accidental shooting the same day that King Umberto was assassinated by a gunman.
Sad Things You Never Noticed in Marvel Movies, Part 2. In Spider-Man No Way Home, Aunt May's grave doesn't say Loving Aunt on it because no one remembers Peter ever existed. In Avengers Age of Ultron, Thor braided a lock of Loki's hair into his own as a way to remember and honor his brother since he thought Loki died. Clint named his son Nathaniel Pietro Barton, Nathaniel representing his best friend Natasha and Pietro representing Quicksilver, who saved his life. Genius Inventions That Should Exist Everywhere, Part 8. The Scribble Pen can recognize and replicate any color that you choose. You just have to scan and start creating. An RGB color scanner copies the colors of real objects, and a smart pump creates the colored ink inside the pen. Next, you can forget about fire extinguishers, as now there are fire extinguisher balls that can put out fires in just a few seconds. Just throw the balls into a live fire and it will get put out immediately. Next, you can keep anything secure by using this USB stick that needs to be unlocked before plugging it into a computer or you won't be able to access it. And if the passcode is put in wrong 10 times, everything on the stick will be erased. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un brings his own private toilet wherever he goes in order to protect his poop. His bodyguards oversee all his toilets, and if anyone is caught using one of them, they could be sentenced to death. He never uses a public restroom, even a secure one, so he can prevent spies from investigating his poop and getting information on his health, but this all gets even crazier. He's so paranoid of his poop getting into the wrong hands that he even has built-in toilets inside all of his cars, even including his bulletproof Mercedes-Benz. This TikTok shows Heather Morgan and Ilya Lichtenstein, and they were just caught trying to launder $4.5 billion worth of Bitcoin. Back in 2016, hackers broke into the crypto exchange Bitfinex and stole 120,000 Bitcoins, which were all funneled into a crypto wallet controlled by Ilya. Ilya and Heather then tried to launder their crypto by using thousands of small transactions and accounts set up with fake IDs. They also withdrew some as cash from Bitcoin ATMs, spent some on NFTs, gold, and Walmart gift cards. The Justice Department has seized $3.6 billion worth of the stolen Bitcoin, with the rest still being unaccounted for. This TikTok shows Heather Morgan and Ilya Lichtenstein, and they were just caught trying to launder $4.5 billion worth of Bitcoin. Back in 2016, hackers broke into the crypto exchange Bitfinex and stole 120,000 Bitcoins, which were all funneled into a crypto wallet controlled by Ilya. Ilya and Heather then tried to launder their crypto by using thousands of small transactions and accounts set up with fake IDs. They also withdrew some as cash from Bitcoin ATMs, spent some on NFTs, gold, and Walmart gift cards. The Justice Department has seized $3.6 billion worth of the stolen Bitcoin, with the rest still being unaccounted for. Lost Inventions That Could Have Changed the World, Part 2. In the 1890s, inventor Nikola Tesla created Tesla coils, which were able to transfer electricity over short distances without any wires. Tesla's ultimate goal was to provide everyone on Earth access to electricity completely for free. So in 1901, Tesla began building a Tesla coil so powerful it would be able to transmit power anywhere on Earth completely wirelessly. But in 1904, his investors pulled their funding because Tesla's main rival, Thomas Edison, wanted to have a monopoly on electrical power instead of giving it free of charge to the world like Tesla planned to. Disney movies that are secretly based on disturbing stories. Disney's Sleeping Beauty is based on a fairy tale from the 1600s that's very disturbing, so viewer discretion is advised. In the original fairy tale, Sleeping Beauty's name is Talia, and she falls into a death-like sleep after a splinter of flax slides under her fingernail. As she sleeps, a king from another kingdom discovers her and has his way with her unconscious body. The sexual assault results in Talia becoming pregnant with twins and then giving birth, all while remaining asleep with the help of fairies like the ones in the movie. One of the twins accidentally sucks Talia's finger, which removes the splinter and wakes her up. And even though she wakes up to find that she has 2 children with the king who took advantage of her, the story ends with her marrying him anyways. Lost Inventions That Could Have Changed the World. In the 90s, Stanley Meyer created a water-powered car that he said would only need 22 gallons of water to drive from Los Angeles to New York. Stanley said after his invention was shown on TV, he was threatened and even offered millions of dollars from huge oil companies to kill all evidence of his technology. And in 1998, Stanley and his brother were having a business dinner with 2 investors when suddenly Stanley collapsed to the ground, muttered the words "they poisoned me," and then died. Just a week after Stanley's death, his lab was raided and all his research, including his water-powered car, was stolen. Marvel Fan Theories That Actually Came True, Part 2. We all know that the late great Stan Lee was in almost every Marvel movie up until his death in 2018. Because he was in almost every movie, Marvel fans theorized that Stan was actually playing the same character in each movie.
While in Guardians of the Galaxy 2, in this scene it was confirmed he was indeed playing the same character in each movie. He was an informant for the Watchers of the MCU, as he was seen having a discussion with them, telling them of his adventures in the franchise up until that point. Paul Alexander hasn't been able to breathe on his own since 1952, and he's known as the Man in the Iron Lung. Paul spends almost every moment of his day in an iron lung, which is the only thing that's keeping him alive. That's because he's paralyzed from the neck down, so without it, he can't breathe. When Paul was 6 years old, he caught the polio virus, and over the next 5 days, he lost the ability to move and breathe. That's when he was put in the iron lung, and even though he couldn't move, that didn't stop him from graduating high school and college with honors. He eventually became a lawyer, and with the help of a pen attached to a stick, he wrote his own biography entirely with his mouth. And when asked why he wrote a book, he had this to say.
To inspire thousands of people, just like you. No matter where you're from, or what your past is, or the challenges that you could be facing, you can truly do anything.
The most tragic lottery winner stories. Doris Murray won $5 million in the Georgia State Lottery, but instead of spending the money on herself, she instead decided to use the money to set up a trust fund for her grandchildren. But just a year after winning the lottery, she tried to break up with her boyfriend, and that's when he stabbed her to death. Gregory Birch Jr. won nearly $500,000 in the Georgia State Lottery, but just 2 months later, 7 masked people broke into his house with shotguns as he pleaded with them to not kill him in front of his kids. He told them he'd give them his bank card, but when the thieves couldn't find his wallet, they shot and killed him anyways. Have you ever thought about what it would be like to get adopted by rich parents and never have to worry about money again? Surprisingly, for some people, this is a reality, and now there's a new show that covers stories like this. One example from the show is Bianca, who was raised in the foster care system and is now looking to be adult adopted by a couple that have money. Many fans of the show are saying she's genuinely looking for a family, while others say she has more sinister intentions.
I guess some people's perception might be really negative. They might think that I'm just using or manipulating my way into a situation to be with people who have money. But I'm just gonna say screw what everybody has to say, and I'm gonna live my life because I'm just so happy.
If you want to watch the rest of Bianca's story and find out if she gets adopted, or watch 5 other similar stories of adults adopting adults, then tune in to all new episodes of the provocative show Adults Adopting Adults every Monday at 10 on A&E. Sad things you never noticed in Marvel movies. In Avengers Age of Ultron, Tony says this.
I see a suit of armor around the world.
But since he couldn't put a suit of armor around the world, in the first Avengers movie, when Natasha meets Bruce for the first time, Bruce pushes a baby cradle and says this.
Every time, get what I want.
In Venom Let There Be Carnage, Venom fixes a poster that has Stan Lee on it.
Mrs. Chen. Good evening, Venom.
Function hall, Mrs. Chen.
This way, Stan Lee was still able to get his cameo even though he sadly passed away. Genius inventions that should exist everywhere, Part 7. For disabled people without the use of their legs, having eye-to-eye conversations or reaching shelves is basically impossible. But some new wheelchairs have the ability to be unfolded into an upright position, helping disabled people stand on their own. To deliver urgent care quicker than ambulances ever could, first responders have created ambulance drones. They fly fast and come equipped with medical equipment like defibrillators, which can easily be used in a pinch and save tons of lives. Various European cities have begun integrating these pop-up toilets into the city walkways. Their intention is to prevent public urination on public sidewalks from late-night partiers. City officials raise them up at 10 o'clock every night and then lower them again in the mornings. You won't believe these jobs actually exist. Naming movies at Pixar. For this job, all you have to do is name Pixar's new movies and you can get paid up to $700,000 to do this. And apparently a woman that had this job got a $300,000 bonus for naming the movie Cars. Professional sleepers get paid up to $100,000 a year just to sleep. They do this for scientists to analyze their sleeping patterns or to test mattresses for hotels. An underwater hotel in the Florida Keys has an underwater pizza delivery man whose job is to deliver pizza to the hotel guests 21 feet below sea level. Would you like to find your dream job, or maybe find a job where you can work from home? Well, the app Hirect is here to make hiring easy, especially in midst of a pandemic and an out-of-date job market. Simply get the Hirect app, put your job preferences, create your profile, and just like that, Hirect's AI algorithm will show you recommended jobs and salaries. Click the link in my bio to find your dream job now. Genius People Who Beat the System, Part 9. Neil Pascoa received an 89.41% grade, but instead of asking his teacher to bump his grade up, he asked her to drop his grade a couple percent so his parents wouldn't see how close he was to an A and would give him less hassle. But Neil's reverse psychology worked, as his teacher instead bumped his grade up to a 90.11%. We all know that the games at the fair are rigged. Well, this TikToker decided to play by their rules. While the employee wasn't looking, he hopped over the counter and put the ring on the bottle himself. And they ended up winning this prize that was so big it wouldn't fit in their car. This Reddit user found a way to beat the chaos of Black Friday. A day before the sale launched, he'd go to Best Buy and pick out the items he wanted. He would then hide them in the washer and dryer machines in the store, and when Black Friday rolled around, he would simply walk into Best Buy and retrieve his discounted items. I bet you didn't know that adults can actually adopt other adults. In fact, there's an upcoming show about the unfamiliar world of adult adoption that has the internet going crazy. One example from the show is this married man who had an inappropriate relationship with an adult woman he was previously trying to adopt, and now he's looking to adopt another adult daughter. Another example is this woman who wants to leave her mother behind to be adopted by another couple that she found online. Those unbelievable yet true stories of grown-ups seeking adoption are only 2 of the 6 stories featured in the new show Adults Adopting Adults. It premieres January 31st at 10 on A&E. Genius People Who Beat the System, Part 8. This super nice guy came out of nowhere and started paying for a TikToker's parking meter using a quarter taped to a stick. That's pure genius. This TikToker's dad created a whole fleet of lawnmowers so he could work smarter and not harder, and honestly, I think he's onto something. YouTuber Troy Kine proved to the world that you can get in anywhere as long as you have a ladder. Just by using a ladder, him and his friend were able to get into a train station, a movie theater, a boat cruise, a work site, and many more places. Reeling in fish from 200 feet down can really be tiring on your wrists, but not for this guy. Using a modified drill attachment, he was easily able to catch 2 fish without doing any of the work. Secret messages hidden in popular logos, Part 4. Many people think that the famous web browser Firefox has a fox on its logo that circles the entire planet. But it isn't actually a fox. The word Firefox is the English translation of the Chinese name for a red panda. So Firefox is no fox at all, it's actually an adorable red panda. The National Geographic logo is a simple yellow rectangle, but it actually symbolizes a door that's open to the world of knowledge about nature, science, and culture. And the color yellow was chosen to represent the sun. The Airbnb logo contains 3 different parts: the head of a person that represents a user of their website, the sign for a location on a map to show where the house or apartment is, a heart which represents love, and finally all of these symbols combine to make the letter A for Airbnb. This little girl suddenly passed away, but what her mom finds in a secret letter will make you cry. 12-year-old Taylor was just like any other girl her age. One day she was doing homework when suddenly she felt a strong pain in her chest. She then collapsed to the floor and her mom called 911. Taylor was rushed to the hospital in critical condition. The doctors discovered she had severe pneumonia and she slipped into a coma. And a few days later, she sadly passed away. Her mother was devastated, but as she went to go clean Taylor's room, she found a secret letter that Taylor had written. The letter was actually a message to herself that she was supposed to open in 2023. She talks about her hopes, dreams, and her relationship with God. Her mother was so inspired by this that she actually wrote a book on it. This man couldn't swim but was still invited to compete in the Olympics, and what happened will shock you. Back in 1999, Eric Mosumbani from Equatorial Guinea tried to learn how to swim. But since most people in his country don't swim, there wasn't any pools he could use, so he would actually practice in lakes and oceans. After 8 months, he could still barely keep himself afloat, but that's when he was invited to the 2000 Olympics off of a wildcard draw. Eric was scared as he had never left this country before or even seen an Olympic 50-meter pool. But Eric still decided to go and ended up recording the slowest time in Olympic history at 1 minute and 52 seconds. But unbelievably, the other 2 swimmers he was competing against made false starts, so he won. His victory went viral online and he was given the nickname Eric the Eel. Here are some crazy coincidences you won't believe actually happened, Part 2. On Christmas Eve in 1994, 2 cars collided on an icy road near Norfolk, England. The two drivers that crashed were actually twin sisters Lorraine and Lavinia, who were delivering Christmas presents to each other. But the craziest part of all is they were unaware of each other's separate journeys, and their last name is literally Christmas. Two twins were separated at birth and adopted by different families, yet they somehow lived identical lives. Both were renamed James, grew up with a dog named Toy, each married a woman named Linda, who they divorced to remarry a woman named Betty. Both named their sons James Allen, drove the same Chevrolet, and they were finally reunited at the age of 39. Famous Marvel scenes where actors went totally off script. In this scene in Guardians of the Galaxy, Star-Lord's backstory is being told as he does this.
Ravagers, led by Yondu Udanta.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know how this machine worked.
Star-Lord putting up his middle finger wasn't in the script, but the director thought it suited Star-Lord's character, so he left it in. Marvel fan theories that actually came true. In this scene in Iron Man 2, a young kid in an Iron Man mask and gloves steps up and confronts this robot. That's when Tony Stark himself destroys the robot, thanks to Kid for his help, and flies away. This is where the theory starts. Since Tom Holland's Peter Parker was a huge Tony Stark fan, many Marvel fans theorized that the little kid from Iron Man 2 was actually Peter Parker. And it turns out that Tom Holland has actually confirmed this theory to be true. Genius inventions that should exist everywhere, Part 6. First, a few movie theaters in Switzerland have installed screens in the bathroom stalls so you don't miss even a second of your movie. Sadly, they don't appear to have sound, but they do have subtitles. Next, we all know how aggravating it is when you can't reach the last few Pringles at the bottom of the can. Well, with this machine that uses a simple pulley system and a bit of suction, it delivers the Pringles to mouth level completely hands-free. Next, in South Korea, these little jets spray salt water onto the roads for de-icing in the winter and cool down asphalt in the summer so it doesn't melt. They are completely automated to preserve the roads and prevent injury from ice slippage. Next, all bathrooms should be like this one, where it shows a green light in front of available stalls and a red light in front of occupied stalls. Here are some photos taken right before disaster. This is the last photo ever taken of Paul Walker. You can see him getting into the car that would ultimately crash and take his life back in 2013. The saddest part of all is that this happened at a charity event Paul Walker was hosting. This photo was taken just moments before the homage bombing. The red car you can see in the photo contained a bomb that would end up killing 29 people and injuring over 200 others. Surprisingly, the man and child in the photo survived, but the photographer didn't. This unsuspecting family captured the last moments of Ayano Takamasu's life. As just moments after this photo was taken, Ayano would fall over the railings into the Niagara Falls to her death. She had climbed over the railing to take a picture with the falls when she lost her footing and fell. Genius people who beat the system, Part 7. David Spurge wanted to meet the band Peking Duck, so he changed the band's Wikipedia page to list himself as family to the band. He then flashed the updated page to security at one of the band's concerts, and they actually let him in backstage. Once there, he met the band and told them how he got backstage, and they were so impressed they called him a legend on social media. Alex Diamond wanted to drink at the Electric Zoo Festival but didn't want to pay for the super expensive drinks at the event. So 3 weeks before the event, he went to the site of the festival grounds and buried a water bottle filled with vodka. He marked it on Google Maps so on the day of the festival he could easily find and dig up his booze. When Reddit user AFCJL12 needed a ride home from the club, instead of paying for a taxi, he would walk to a nearby late-night takeout place. From there, he would order food to be delivered to his house, and he would hitch a ride with the delivery driver, which was still cheaper than getting a taxi. Saddest live streaming moments caught on camera, Part 2. Twitch streamer Buckers was playing Madden NFL when he took out his rage on his infant son after his controller malfunctioned during a game.